Welcome back to our podcast, Inclusive Leadership, It's Not Black or White. I'm Anna Poole, Executive Coach, here with my colleague, psychotherapist and teacher, Bede Draper. We've been on quite a journey with this podcast. We started with Martin Buber, the philosopher who taught how humans tend to objectify people who are different. This goes a long way to explain horrific events like genocide and 400 years of systemic oppression of Black and brown people in the US. Bede went on to say that whenever we objectify another person, we automatically objectify ourselves as well. In other words, when we override our intrinsic strivings of goodwill and concern for others, it creates an internal rupture with our essential nature, whether we register it or not. And remember, Socrates taught that happiness is not a thing we can buy, but an outcome of living excellently, which means with integrity and inclusivity. I dare you to really reflect on that one. We spent some time getting practical around how inclusive leadership shows up at the workplace and the fact that it is a huge performance and value multiplier, a fact that's well researched and reported. So I asked Bede, why isn't everyone leading in that manner? He explained that most people have another, more compelling agenda to maintain and build their personal status, fame, power, and wealth. Focusing on self-gratification drives behaviors that are typically highly excluding. Things like ruthless indifference to the welfare of others, competition, envy, even malice. Wow. We left off with the idea that being an inclusive leader requires a fundamental commitment. Either I choose to learn how to be an inclusive leader, or I focus on self-promotion and all the dark values that go with it. So, where do we go from here? Bede and I share a commitment to bringing these insights and this approach to inclusive leadership to business organizations. We have a unique approach, which you've experienced in these podcasts. We start by creating Socratic dialogue on the principles of inclusivity and ethical leadership. Towards the end of the program, we facilitate the process of building a shared vision for the desired future state of an inclusive organizational culture that supports all members in thriving, being rewarded, and growing equally. In this, our final podcast of the series, we're going to talk more about how a leadership team can move through this program with us, as well as what benefits you can expect. So, if you're a leader and you have a team or a company that you want to help become more inclusive, listen up.
Okay, well, the first thing is this. What we actually offer is only of use to you if you've actually struggled with, thought about how to bring about a cooperative culture where people can work together in an inclusive way. If you haven't got that interest, what we've got actually can't help you. But given that you have that interest, we're willing to give you an opportunity to experience firsthand our approach, to check out for yourself whether or not it would be a fit for you and your organization. So what we do is we offer a free learning experience so that you can participate with what we're doing, and so you can see for yourself whether or not the very difficult and challenging task of bringing about a cultural change can work for you.
Right, so the whole idea with this, what we call a discovery pilot, is for us to experiment with the level of fit between your culture and the teachings that we would like to bring to your organization around inclusivity. And we recognize that not every organization is going to be ready for this. But we believe strongly that there are a number of organizations that are actually really interested in pursuing a form of learning that is less about kind of identity politics and polarization and more about how do we come together around this human challenge of excluding leadership and of getting caught up in those dark values that we've been talking about.
Yes, so we're talking about a learning process that is radically inclusive. It includes everybody, black, white,
yes, even white men like Bede.
Even white men like me. So
and
that's
not to minimize, we're joking here, but that's not to minimize the true and terrible challenges of the lack of diversity and equity in, the corporations and businesses that we work in. But we just have come to the conclusion that some of the ways that it's being approached is not always that helpful and not actually working. So we invite you to really experiment with this. There's no obligation, there's no risk on your part to just check out and see, is this the kind of approach that your team might respond really well to?
Yeah, and the other point is that um, uh, because this is a kind of a new way of looking at things that includes everybody, it takes a little bit of time to see how it actually translates, because what we're interested in ultimately is the transformation of the organization. And when we talk about transformation, in Latin, transformation means trans, across, form. So we're changing the form of the organization, which tends to be exclusive, excluding others, to bring about a form that includes others. So what we're talking about is a journey, a new way to approach this very important problem. We take a journey from being in a form that's excluding for the organization where people are working happily together, and in a form that's inclusive, that includes all of the diversity.
Another unique part of this program is this idea of creating a shared vision. I'm actually the co-author of a book that's called Leading Change Through Shared Vision. And the idea is that we can take a team or a group into the desired future state, in their imaginations, and just imagine what an inclusive culture would really be like. What would it feel like? How would people be interacting with each other? How might policies and procedures be different? How might promotions be handled differently? All these really important things that we can bring our creativity and innovation to. And so this vision becomes very powerful. It becomes an organizing principle that people start to be guided by and to lead towards. And so I've seen this over and over again in organizations. It can be extremely powerful and just make all of the teachings that we've been discussing previously come to life in this vision.
Why? Because unless you have the end clear in view, as Aristotle would say, you can't actually measure your activity.
So I think that's it in a nutshell, Bede, unless you have anything else you want to ask.
That's our offer.
That's our offer. There's some information on this channel. If you'd like to reach out and talk to us more about this, we'd love to chat with you. Again, there's no obligation, but we'd love to meet you and see if perhaps this approach might be a good fit for your team or organization.
Okay. Well, thanks, Anna.
All right. Thank you, Bede. Take care.
Take care.